Welcome to the Trends in Automation podcast, brought to you by Festo. Festo can change the way you work with innovative and intelligent automation solutions, enabling your business to thrive in this rapidly changing environment.
Hi everyone, this is Tom Worsnop, Product Market Manager for Electromechanical Actuators here at Festo North America. Welcome back to Trends in Automation. Okay, let's start with a quick exercise. Imagine you're a machine builder and your customer asks you to produce a machine that doesn't include any pneumatic actuators. No cylinders, no grippers, no valves. Only electric axes. We'll get to the reasons for that in a minute. What products are you going to use instead? Can you immediately think of alternatives? Are you comfortable with the idea of using those alternatives, or does it make you uneasy? And if it makes you uneasy, what about those alternatives makes you feel that way? Is it the price? Is it the complexity? Is it something else? With that in mind, let's introduce the topics of this episode. First, we're going to discuss the trend away from pneumatic actuators toward electromechanical axes. And then I'm going to introduce you to the new Simplified Motion Series, or SMS Axis, which are electromechanical axes designed as an alternative to pneumatic actuators. And you can check them out at festo.com/SMS. First, the trend. There are a number of reasons customers are looking for pneumatic alternatives. The first reason for this trend, not surprisingly, is cost. The operating costs of electricity are lower than the cost of compressed air. Consider this. If you're a machine builder, you've likely been asked by your customers to reduce or completely eliminate pneumatic components on a machine because they want to reduce their operating costs. And if you're an end user, you've likely considered lowering your operating costs by buying machines that use fewer pneumatic components. The second reason for this trend towards electromechanical axes is more and more machines are being operated in commercial settings. And in commercial settings, compressed air isn't readily available. Machines in a factory environment don't have this issue because compressed air is commonplace. But outside of a factory, that's not a given. Take an example that's particularly relevant in this moment. Machines testing for COVID-19. Testing the swab samples or the blood samples is done in automated labs, which are often these desktop machines. They sit in an office environment where there is no compressed air. For a machine like this, if you're the machine builder, do you integrate a compressor and the associated air prep components into that machine? Or do you find alternative solutions that don't require compressed air? And the third reason for this trend is that electric axes have come down in price over the years. Pneumatics are still lower cost than electric solutions, but the price difference has gotten a lot smaller, so that sticker shock of switching to a comparable electric solution is gone. As you probably know, since you're listening to our podcast, Festo is a global supplier of pneumatic and electromechanical products. That means we've been offering solutions on both sides of this trend for decades. On the pneumatic side, we have pneumatic cylinders, rodless actuators, rotary actuators, pneumatic grippers, valves and valve manifolds, as well as the air prep to support those products. And on the other side, the electromechanical side, we have electric cylinders, linear actuators, electric rotaries, electric grippers, as well as the servo drives and motors to control all of those. And being on both sides of this trend meant we were able to observe this shift towards electric solutions over time. And what we've seen is there's this gap between pneumatic and electric solutions. For customers who are comfortable with both technologies, both pneumatics and electric, crossing the gap was simply a matter of weighing the costs versus the benefits, which one's the better fit for their application. But for some customers, crossing this gap was really daunting. And this was especially true for customers moving away from pneumatics, where their controls are as simple as a couple of digital I/O. One output to extend the actuator, one output to retract the actuator, and two inputs for the proximity switches on the actuator. With all that in mind, Festo has introduced the new Simplified Motion Series Axes to fill this gap. The SMS Axes are a line of electric axes that are simple to use, like pneumatic actuators, and are lower cost than a full servo solution. These axes can do end-to-end positioning, like pneumatics, or they can be used in force mode for clamping or pressing applications, also like pneumatics. And they are controlled using the same simple digital outputs and inputs that you would use on a pneumatic system. So 2 digital outputs, one to control extend and one to control retract, and 2 digital inputs to indicate when the SMS axis has reached position. Since their release, the feedback from customers about the SMS Axis has been overwhelmingly positive. The customers who have tried them out are really eager to incorporate them into their latest projects, and so far we've had successes in a variety of applications, including on conveyor lines. We've used them as diverters, as lane adjusters, and for gate operation. In packaging, we've used them to actuate the blade to cut paper packaging material to length, as well as to open and close the release door, which drops the rolls of paper after they've been cut. We've used SMS Axis in lab automation for raising and lowering the dispenser, as well as for rotating test tubes to scan their barcodes. And we've used them for pressing components together during assemblies and clamping components during gluing. And not surprisingly, the customers for these applications were switching for one of the 3 reasons I mentioned earlier. Some customers were trying to reduce their air consumption. Other customers were able to completely eliminate their need for compressed air on that machine, which means they were able to eliminate all the air prep from that machine too. And that's going to further reduce their total cost of ownership for switching from a pneumatic solution to an electromechanical solution. And in some of these cases, like the lab automation machine, there was no compressed air available on the machine to begin with. So the use of SMS Axis meant the machine builder didn't have to use a full servo solution. As I alluded to in the applications I was just talking about, the SMS Axes are available in a variety of actuator families like linear and rotary actuators, as well as in a wide range of sizes and stroke lengths. So, for example, we have electric cylinders in 3 sizes and multiple stroke lengths. In the smallest size, we can apply 150 newtons of feed force, all the way up to 900 newtons in the largest cylinders. We also have mini slides, which are basically the electric cylinders with an integrated guide. We have a range of ball screw linear axes for smooth, precise movements. We have a range of tooth belt linear axes for dynamic applications. And we also have a range of rotary axes for 90 degree or 180 degrees of rotation. The SMS axes are also really easy to configure. This is done using 3 buttons on the side of the integrated motor. In a matter of seconds, you can adjust the extend speed, so that's the speed it's going to extend the actuator, the retract speed, which is the speed it will retract the actuator, as well as the force level used during the pressing operation. You can also teach the switch point, which is where the SMS axis will move to before switching to force mode. And this means the axis can do a fast positioning movement before switching to the slower pressing movement. And that, of course, will reduce cycle times. This is something that you can't do with pneumatic actuators. There are other advantages to the SMS Axis too. There are fewer components to install, no tubing, no valves, no air prep, and no proximity switches are needed. And that means less time spent on installation. And there are no collisions into the end positions, since the SMS Axes use a motor to control accelerations and decelerations. The smooth motions mean less wear and tear on the SMS Axes, longer service life, and less time and money spent on maintenance. In addition to digital I/O control, the SMS Axes also support I/O link control. That means the SMS Axes can be configured and controlled completely over I/O link, which makes wiring, configuration, and operation of the Axes even easier. For more information about the Simplified Motion Series, or SMS Axes, please check out our website at festo.com/SMS. And since we're talking about easy-to-use electromechanical products, I also want to give a plug to the new electric gripper series, EHPS. This isn't part of the Simplified Motion Series of Axes, but like the SMS Axes, it's available with digital I/O control or I/O link control, and it easily replaces pneumatic grippers. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks to Keith Colvin for producing this episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Trends in Automation, brought to you by Festo. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and stay up to date on future episodes. You can now listen on iTunes, Google Play, and various podcast platforms. For more information on this and more, please visit festo.com. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.